sustained compassion and our generosity and our assurance that America will be there to help.
Wonderful day for all the people of Iraq.
The magnitude of what's taken place here, a natural disaster of historic proportions.
The real winners in this National Assembly elections are the Afghan people.
When we left our house, my husband and I both looked back and thought that was it.
This is a strategic moment in time where we demonstrate what the U.S. people are all about, and that is caring and helping other people in need.
I'd like to congratulate people of Iraq for the successful completion of a vote on a draft constitution. This election will not mean the end of violence, but it is the beginning of something new. Constitutional democracy at the heart of the Middle East.
2005 was a year of unprecedented natural disasters, a year when countless thousands had to endure the loss of loved ones, homes, and livelihoods. Yet without the specialized skills and abilities men and women of the U.S. military provided in the aftermath of those events, the toll could have been much worse. Even as they answered repeated calls for help at home and abroad, those men and women also continued critical missions around the world, defending against terrorism and safeguarding the beginnings of democracy in places like Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Horn of Africa. But what were 2005's biggest events like for the people directly involved? And how do those events affect the future? Answers are yours this hour as we look back on 2005 and the many ways U.S. military men and women were answering the call for help, defending people, and changing lives. In the days before Hurricane Katrina hit, the National Guard was busy pre-positioning several thousand Guard men and women, part of a plan based on experience learned during the worst storm to hit this area before, 1969's Hurricane Camille.
We had about 8,500 that were in place before the storm hit. We modeled that on Hurricane Camille. We needed about 8,000 soldiers for that at the time, so we thought we had it about right. We didn't. The immensity, the vast coverage of that storm made Camille look like a midget.
The damage Katrina left behind was difficult to comprehend.
A natural disaster of historic proportions. No one can come up with anything that approximates it in the history of our country.
Despite all advanced preparations and an initial response, the unexpected scope of the disaster required changes to relief plans. In the meantime, some people began questioning the time it was taking to help Katrina's victims. But as the commander of federal forces involved in the relief effort explained, the extent of the devastation hindered everyone.
So response-wise, think about this hurricane left here and it covered Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia. It killed people as far as Georgia with tornadoes. That entire group of people that was coming to help had to recover themselves. And you had the time and space of moving those assets here.
Relief activities soon rose to a fever pitch.
We're an Air Force rescue team. We will assist you.
You gotta get in the boat.
Search and recovery missions saved tens of thousands from New Orleans' hardest hit areas, and necessary supplies of food and water reached thousands more throughout the region.
We got the capability. We're here. We're demonstrating indeed every day. We're performing the mission with the great support of the National Guard from multiple states. The response is here. The troops are getting the job done under the conditions that you see here today, and they're making America proud.
Even as efforts ramped up, stories out of New Orleans described rampant looting and armed gangs roving the city. The image painted in the minds of people around the world was of a city gone mad. General Honore says those stories were blown way out of proportion.
I think the most unsafe thing about coming to New Orleans is getting in through the water and dealing with the effects of the storm, and not the people in New Orleans. I've heard so much about that. I walk among them, with 20,000 of them, and you still were getting, even in the horrific conditions, a warm greeting.
Hey, y'all want to give any of this to y'all's crew?
Army National Guardsman Staff Sergeant Luster Hayden's first duty in support of the relief effort placed him at the New Orleans Superdome.
The reports you hear, like, probably are not all true. It was pretty stressful because you had upwards to 25,000 people. Not much resources at the time available, but it came in, and the guardsmen and stuff that were there were doing the job, and the people started calming down when they seen, especially when we were coming around with the food and the water, and they seen that we were trying to take care of them as best as we could at the time.
Turn back around, we'll check our barriers.
When we met Luster in early December, he was still serving in support of the Katrina recovery effort, helping maintain security in the devastated Ninth Ward area of New Orleans. We talked about some of the experiences he'll never forget.
We've seen bodies, all over the place. People that in this area that didn't get out of their homes. Some of them are in their attics, and some of them you see on the side of the streets. We weren't supposed to do any kind of recovery work because we weren't equipped. So if we saw a victim, we would mark the area, note it, and check the authorities.
We've got the Bees Road, which is the city limits of Gulfport, Biloxi.
Staff Sergeant Glenn Moranto is another guardsman who's been serving since Hurricane Katrina hit. But he, like many other military members who call the Gulf Coast home, is also one of the storm's victims. He lost both a rental home he owned and what was his dream home, bought only 4 years ago.
I know what I need to do is just that I just hope that we could get some assistance. Last week got denied by my insurance. They saying it's a flood. Of course, where both of my homes is probably approximately 5 miles. I live to the nearest water. All right, let's go, guys. The wife, she's doing the process while I'm out here working. She's actually, I guess, the administrative budget director dealing with FEMA and SBA and see what kind of assistance they're going to give us so we can get back to our home.
A lot of cleanup and recovery work has been accomplished in the days since this year's hurricanes hit. But when you stand in the midst of the rubble and the destruction, you have to wonder how people decide where even to begin. And though cleanup is a main priority, one greater concern right now is housing.
It's chalk. My girls would draw on the sidewalk with her chalk.
Military people left without a place to live are offered assistance through their commands. In Gulfport, Mississippi, one of the hardest hit areas, the Barzak family and their 2 dogs now call this trailer home.
Cozy.
It's cozy. Hey, no eating. Don't eat the dog food.
At least until the extensive repairs needed on their home are finished. They say being a military family has made a difference.
If he hadn't been in the Navy, we probably wouldn't have anywhere to live right now.
The military community in general has just stepped up. There's so many things that we've been doing, and everybody wants to know how things are going. So there's a lot of help out there. It's just a matter of making sure everybody knows where to go and get it.
The Barzak's temporary home, and about 100 more like it at the Naval Construction Battalion Center in Gulfport, Mississippi, are only one of many options open to Navy families who are victims of Hurricane Katrina. Another example is at the nearby naval station at Pascagoula, which has opened doors to their new Gauchier housing area for other families in need.